Now, in the previous video, we said that this is the job of the government. Now, speaking of the job of the government, in ancient China, it can be divided into 6 treasuries and 3 businesses. The 6 treasuries involve the work of the 5 elements and grain, which is agriculture. Now, because grain is food, basically, food of the people, the government regarded it as equally important with the 5 elements. So now you may recognize that 6 treasuries are all produced by nature, right? Including grain, of course. And these 6 treasuries are recognized by the ancient as the sources of wealth. In the canon of history, the chapter of the councils of the great Yu, it is recognized that the task of government is in the nourishing of the people. So the 6 treasuries must be duly regulated by human power. The emphasis on government regulation on natural resources does not contradict market economy. The market is consisted of human beings, but the human habit is taking it all until there is nothing left. So in the process, the strong usually ends up taking the most of the resources while there is very little left for the weak. So as we have discussed extensively in Lecture 5, although this is the necessary outcome of completely free market, which seems natural and perfectly justified, the long-term consequence of economic imbalance is social disorder and hatred. But so this will eventually hurt the benefit of the strong in the long term. So for the sake of the long-term survival of the strong, natural resources must be duly regulated as well. This is from an economic perspective. But the equality-motivated regulation of natural resources is also ethical, but is much more important than the pure economic reason above. In the discussion with a person called Chen Xiang, Mencius pointed out that the difference between man and the beast is that men possess a moral nature. He said, if men are well-fed, warmly clad, and comfortably lodged, without being taught at the same time, they become almost like the beasts. Well, one difference between man and beast is that men care about other men and will feel uncomfortable to watch other men living in an outrageously poor condition. So, regulation of natural resources is the practice of human development and is not against the market economy, but simply a correction against a human habit. Now, let's come back to the job of the government. Apart from the 6 treasuries, which deal with the natural resources, there is also what is called the 3 businesses of the government. They are the rectification of the people's virtue, conveniences of life, and securing abundant means of sustenance. You can see that the 3 businesses are different from the 6 treasuries in that they're not produced by nature, but must be nurtured by human power. Also, the 3 businesses should be the objectives of the government. The first one is most important, rectification of people's virtue. Let's think about a scenario where a country has a very high national output, GDP, but the people may be mean and they wouldn't mind hurting other people for profit. So do you think this is successful governing? And more importantly, is there real happiness? We know that, as we said before, the ultimate aim of economic development is generating happiness. So if there is no happiness, then what's the point of economic development in the first place? But the real happiness is not dependent upon economic life. It's the virtue and ethics that harness the innate nature of human beings and the ultimate happiness. So the first and foremost objective, or let's say the business of the government, is to rectify people's virtue. And to do that, the government must be, of course, a virtuous one itself, and the ruler must be virtuous. Compare with the virtual development of the nation, economic development only comes as a secondary business, but it's still very important task of the government. So conveniences of life and securing abundant means of sustenance refer to people's economic life, and is the responsibility of the government to make sure that operation of the market can provide sufficient nourishment and necessity to the people. Sometimes the free market doesn't always do that, and the free market doesn't always run efficiently, and the government must ensure proper adjustment is in place. So overall, the 6 treasuries and the 3 businesses are called the 9 services of the government, and is recorded by the Spring and Autumn Annals. Okay, where the management of the natural resources takes a significant portion of the 9 services.